The second session of the Senate in the third regular session of the 19th Congress is hereby called to order. May I call on Senator Robin Hood Padilla to lead the chamber in prayer. You're recognized, sir.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير آمين.
Thank you, Senator Padilla. The Secretary may please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senator Binay, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Ontiveros, Senator Lapid, Senator Legarda, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pimentel, Senator Poe, Senator Revilla, Senator Tolentino, Senator Tulfo, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Cynthia, Senator Villar Mark, Senator Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we proceed, Mr. President, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of several distinguished visitors in our midst. Visitor of Senator J.V. Ejercito, Mayor Stephen Stan of Manticao, Misamis Oriental, Miss World Tourism 2022, Justine Felizarta, Miss Manila 2014, Dr. Crisbel Halili, visitors of Senator Bongo, Mayor Bongbong Tupas of Barotac Viejo, Iloilo, Mayor Millard Villanueva of Concepcion, Iloilo, Mayor Bahada of San Dionisio, Iloilo, visitors of Senator Amy Marcos, Mayor Willie Robles of Baras Rizal, Councilor Robles, Vice Mayor Silong of Candaba, Pampanga. Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the first session, Monday, July 22, 2024, and consider the same as approved.
Before acting on the Majority Leader's motion, Chair would like to welcome the distinguished guests mentioned to your Senate. Welcome, gentlemen and ladies. Any objection? There being none, same is hereby approved.
Mr. President, with the consent of the body, I move to consider on third reading Senate Bill 2457. This is the bill entitled Discontinuing the Use of the Mother Tongue as Medium of Instruction. I trust that the honorable members will see the merit of this measure and vote accordingly. Printed copies of the bill were electronically distributed to the members last July 8, 2024 in compliance with the 3-day rule of the Constitution. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Chair is none. Secretary General is directed. Is so directed.
An act discontinuing the use of the mother tongue as medium of instruction from kindergarten to grade 3, providing for its optional implementation in monolingual classes, and amending for the purpose sections 4 and 5 of RA 10533, otherwise known as the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senator Binay, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Ontiveros, Senator Lapid, Senator Legarda, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pimentel, Senator Poe, Senator Revilla, Senator Tolentino, Senator Tulfo, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Cynthia, Senator Villar Mark, Senator Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstentions, Senate Bill number 2457 is hereby approved on third and final reading.
Mr. President, may I be allowed to just explain briefly my explanation of vote?
Senator Villanueva is recognized.
Thank
You
you
may
very
proceed,
much,
sir.
Mr. President. Mr. President, isa hong mapagpalang hapon sa ating lahat, and
The gentleman may proceed.
thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, kagaya ng sabi ng ating Pangulo kahapon sa kanyang State of the Nation address, napakahalaga ng usapin ng edukasyon at ito'y prioridad ng ating administrasyon. And also, Mr. President, to reiterate the words of the late Senator Ed Angara, our idol, when he sponsored the K-12 program in the 15th Congress. Adeptness to language begins with one's mother tongue and provides the strong base for acquiring knowledge, skills, and competencies across all the learning areas. Kaya po isang malaking pasasalamat ang nais nating ipabatid sa ating chairperson, ating kaibigan at seatmate, Senator Win Gatchalian, sa pagtanggap ng ating mga amendments. Nagpapasalamat din po tayo sa ating mga kasamahan sa EDCOM 2, kila Commissioner Coco Pimentel, Commissioner Pia Cayetano, Commissioner Sani Angara. Mr. President, through language mapping, we will be able to cluster together our students in the same grade level and with a common language into monolingual classes to ensure that our MLE will be more effective. Ginoong Pangulo, ang kagalingan sa wika ay nagsisimula sa paggamit ng sariling wika at nagbibigay ng matibay na pundasyon para sa pagkuha ng kaalaman, kasanayan at kakayahan sa lahat ng iba pang larangan ng pag-aaral. Kung kaya po napaka-importante ng K-12 curriculum ang mother tongue-based multilingual education. Muli, Ginoong Pangulo, maraming salamat at pagpalain tayong lahat ng ating Panginoong Diyos.
Thank you, Senator Villanueva. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 10, Section 20 of the Rules of the Senate, this representation has the honor to move to elect the Honorable Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito as our Deputy Majority Leader. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no objection. Senator Ejercito is so elected.
Mr. President, I move to elect the Honorable Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo as the new chairperson of the Committee on Youth, vice the newly appointed Secretary of Education, Senator Sani Angara. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair is none. Senator Go is so elected.
Mr. President, I move to elect the Honorable Senator Mart Villar as the new chairperson of the Senate Committee on Games and Amusement, vice Senator Lito Lapid. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, Senator Villar is so elected.
Mr. President, some administrative matters with the consent of the body, I move to transfer the committee referrals of the following bills. Senate Bill 2485, amending Section 10B of Republic Act 10160, the Charter of the City of Bacoor, from the Committee on Rules to the Committees on Local Government, to the Committee on Local Government, Committees on Local Government and Electoral Reforms, and People's Participation. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Same is approved.
Senate Bill 2005, the Ramon Magsaysay District Hospital Bill, from the Committee on Rules to the Committees on Health and Demography and Finance. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is approved.
Senate Bill 1942, the Dr. Eleuterio R. Viulago General Hospital Bill, from the Committee on Rules to the Committees on Health and Demography and Finance. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is approved.
Senate Bill 1517, the Bacoor City National Science High School Bill, from the Committee on Rules to the Committees on Basic Education and Finance. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is approved.
Mr. President, I move for a minute suspension.
With the permission of the Majority Leader, Chair recognizes former Senate President Zubiri. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, no, it's just the matter of also housekeeping, particularly on the memberships of the committees. I was asked by media yesterday about committee memberships. Sabi ko, since there's 6 of us that basically resigned from their committee posts, particularly the leadership, we have no members in the committee, Your Honor, Mr. President, since we were ex-officio members in all. Therefore, maybe I don't want to belabor the point here in the floor. If it is possible, we can call for a caucus and discuss on how we can also get committee memberships, because myself, Senator Lauren Legarda, Senator Joel Villanueva have no committee memberships in any committee since we were ex-officio members. Thank you, Mr. President.
We are having a caucus, that's my understanding from our Majority Leader, and we will discuss that.
Thank you.
But on an additional note, SP Migs, the vice chairmanships of some of those who resigned as chairman still remain.
Yes.
And their memberships, except those who are ex officio, still remain as well. And it is in the interest of the chamber to fill up these vacancies as well. So we would be more than willing to work with you, with Senator Villanueva, and upon agreement in the caucus to so fill up all of these committee vacancies so that the committee reports can be signed to. Because as you understand, when we changed the chairman of the Committee on Finance, the pending committee reports that were signed by the chair of the Committee on Finance have to be refiled again. And the new majority in the committees would have to be, the signatures would have to be obtained again. So it is in the interest of the chamber, and we thank you for your concern
Thank you,
as well.
Mr.
for that.
President. Thank you.
Mr. President, if I may, in relation to this
Senator
particular
Villanueva
topic-
is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr.
You may
President.
proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is more of a point of inquiry, considering that I'm glad that the leadership of the Senate would take into consideration an urgent caucus by all members to talk about this, Mr. President, because if I heard it right, Mr. President, our leader, Senate President Escudero, made mention about the word "still remain," meaning if the chairman became part of the leadership, the vice chair and the committee members will remain. So I wanted to find out if that is accurate, Mr. President, because I was looking at the rules and perhaps the chairperson, the Senate President, is talking about Section 18 and Section 19 of the rules, which states, and I quote, "The membership of the permanent committees, including their respective chairpersons, shall be chosen by the Senate. The chairperson of each committee may designate the vice chairperson or such vice chairpersons of the committee and create such subcommittees as may be deemed necessary." So again, Mr. President, there's no wording that says they will remain as vice chair and members of the committee. Now, furthermore, Mr. President, if you look at Section 19 of our rules, the chairman and the members of the permanent committees shall commence in the exercise of their duties upon their election. They shall cease when their successors shall have been elected or designated. Mr. President, dear colleagues, this is just for my education, and I wanted to be clarified on this as we move forward. I don't think, Mr. President, the rules does specifically mention that in an event of change of leadership, the composition of ex officio members and membership of the committee should remain. As we understand it, Mr. President, the chairperson of the body are therefore not precluded from electing new members of the committee. Because, Mr. President, if you look at Section 21 of the rules, and I quote, Mr. President, "Whenever a motion regarding who should be a member of a permanent committee is presented, no objection against the proposed membership of any senator in particular shall be considered, and the objections, if any, must be formulated against the proposed membership therein as a whole." And that's why, Mr. President, I submit to the wisdom of the body. I am happy to note, Mr. President, that that there will be a caucus to address these issues. I'm taking the floor today, Mr. President, without asking for any additional membership to this representation. I'm very comfortable being elected as the chair of the Senate Committee on Labor, and I don't intend to be a member of any other committees. Thank you, Mr. President.
The same is true here before, Senator Villanueva. But for the information of the body, the gentleman from Bulacan actually read the provision the chair relied upon. Last sentence of Section 19 reads, "They shall cease when their successors shall have been elected or designated." So, with the exception, as I said earlier, of the ex officio members that were replaced, meaning the pro tem and the majority leader, the minority leader was not replaced. It still remains to be Senator Pimentel. The rest of the membership of the committee shall remain until their successors shall have been so elected. Now, in the case of the non-ex officio members of the Senate, non-ex officio members of the committees or regular members, they remain to be where they are, vice chairs or members of the committees, unless we so decide as a body, as a majority, to replace them accordingly on the part of either the majority or the minority. As you said, properly and correctly, there is no point to object on the part of the nominations of the minority, nor on the part of the majority on the part of the minority. That is why the vacancies we now have to fill would be the vacancies created by the former regular members who have now been elected ex officio officers of the Senate. Yun yung gap lang na pupunaan natin.
I think, Mr. President, if I may, the important point that this representation is trying to emphasize is the opportunity for the chairperson to choose also, Mr. President, if he or she desires to replace the vice chair and the members of the committee.
Well, that is correct, but we wrote Except for the ex officio members, we wrote all the members of the Senate with respect to their desired committees. And as the gentleman said, he expressed no desire to be a member of any of the committees. And once a member so desires to be a member of the committee, we refer the same to the chairman for his assent. May I cite an example? For example, the membership asked by one of the members, we refer them to Senator Win Gatchalian as chairman of the Ways and Means, and he acceded to the request.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Villanueva. Senator, Majority Leader before Senator Cayetano. Senator Cayetano is
Yes,
recognized.
thank you. Mr. President, I have a point of inquiry.
The lady may proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I think yesterday we received notice, I believe all senators received notice of the hearings that are scheduled this week. And one of them is a motu proprio hearing of the Committee on Health headed by Senator Bongo. I've mentioned, we have discussed this, so this is just to enlighten our colleagues. It is a motu proprio hearing on the transfer of funds of PhilHealth to Treasury. Mr. President, you will recall just before we adjourned, a similar issue had been brought, this representation brought a similar issue to the attention of the body when there was also a motu proprio hearing called by the Committee on Health on an issue regarding Belkens. As discussed, and then Senate President Mig Subiri was involved in the discussion, so was former Majority Floor Leader Joel Villanueva. And I will repeat this discussion. Senate Rule number 10, Section 13.2 on the jurisdiction and powers of the Committee on Accountability of Public Officers and Investigations, that is the Blue Ribbon Committee, is the only committee that is allowed to have motu proprio hearings. To be specific, it says on its own initiative or brought to its attention by any member of the Senate. Then it was further discussed that there's Senate Resolution number 5, Section 2, Rules of Procedure Governing Inquiries in Aid of Legislation. I believe this is a 2010 rules. It was approved in 2010, states that any of its committee inquiries may be initiated by the Senate or any of its committee if the matter is within its competence, or upon petition filed or upon information given by any senator. So during the discussion before we adjourned, it appeared to be the decision that committees can have motu proprio hearings. So I would like the body to be informed that this is what we will be, this is what will transpire. There may be a couple of senators who are likewise concerned about the transfer of funds. I know for certain Senator J.V. Ejercito, former Majority Floor Leader Joel Villanueva are also concerned. I am also concerned. I have a draft resolution I'm filing today. I think Senator J.V. already filed a draft resolution himself. So then our procedure normally is the Committee on Rules will now determine who will hear this. And then there is also a second referral for committees who, it's a self-explanatory second referral. So if we will now be having motu proprio hearings, these are the following, this is what we can expect. There will be a disruption of our system and order because there will already be a motu proprio hearing without the Committee on Rules being able to decide what to do with the other resolutions. There will also be conflict with the resource persons. We may be calling them more than once, and these are very busy personnel. They are running the agencies. And then third, we may have varying recommendations. And fourth, I will stand up here all the time and ask what are we going to do so we can have an orderly conduct of business. Therefore, Mr. President, I submit this to the Committee on Rules. May we, this may be something the chairman may want to discuss with his members, but I don't think we can go on this way, Mr. President. With all due respect to our colleagues who are eagerly taking on the responsibility responsibilities of hearing these very important issues.
With the permission of the Majority Leader, Chair would like to make comments. The lady is correct. The rule was amended sometime in 2010. And I was informed, even at the previous issue, when the first time this was raised, that the intention of the amendment, the intention behind it, although it seems like the words of the amended rule did not reflect the intention. The intention was to enable the committees to conduct a hearing during recess,
Yes.
when we are not in session, so that they can act immediately on whatever was urgent.
Yes.
But that, in practice, and the example given was the late former Senator Santiago, even she filed a resolution when the Senate resumed its session already, even if she already conducted an initial motu proprio hearing, in order to afford the Committee on Rules the opportunity to go over it, study, and refer it to the appropriate committee. Because although it is rarely objected to whenever the Majority Leader makes a reference on the floor, technically it's the whole body that agrees to it.
Yes.
When nobody objects. So Chair would like to express support and agreement with the concern of the lady from Taguig, and would refer this matter to the Rules Committee to look into amending this particular rule, amend it further to clarify the intent of, to reflect the intent of the Senate when we amended this particular rule. I'm referring, Majority Leader, to Section 2 on the rules of procedure governing inquiries in aid of legislation, so that we won't be faced with this issue for a third time in the past 3 months, as you know, as you very well know. But with the indulgence of Senator Pia, since the notices have been sent, it seems, by Senator Go, what is your pleasure?
Thank you for
Insofar
asking.
as this
Yes. I'm ready.
scheduled hearing is concerned.
I have a response, Mr. President. Thank you for asking. With all due respect to the chairman, and we know that he has reached out to the concerned agencies and checked on their availability. This representation has no objections that His Honor would proceed, but without prejudice, no, to number one, the rules being clarified, and then a possibility later on, if the Blue Ribbon, this representation has that interest as Blue Ribbon Chair, the Committee on Finance, Senator Grace Poe, may have an interest because this involves a memo circular of the Department of Finance, without prejudice for that also, these committees being involved or taking charge, taking the lead later on. But I have absolutely no objection to the hearing proceeding on Thursday, Mr.
Thank
President.
you for your magnanimity and understanding, Senator Pia. Before I recognize Senator Go, Senator Villanueva, our former Majority Leader, just reminded me that we discussed this as a sidebar on the sides of the floor, and according to him, and he reminded me, the Committee on Rules already has a draft amendment to this particular section of our rules that perhaps the Majority Leader and the Committee on Rules can consider, so that we can address this issue once and for all. Senator Go,
Mr. President,
Majority Leader is recognized.
Before we recognize Senator Go with the permission of this body, we take note of the manifestation of Senator Cayetano. Indeed, our rules can be ascertained textually that it is only the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee that can conduct motu proprio investigations even during a non-recess period. And as explained by the good Senate President, Section 2 of Resolution number 5 would mean a committee working during a recess, and a clarificatory amendment to this section should forthwith be made by the Committee on Rules and be approved by this body. But, Mr. President, considering the concurrence just made by the good lady senator from Taguig that she is willing to allow probably might not be the proper term, have the Senate Committee on Health proceed with a proposed investigation. Mr. President, this probably might be the last instance wherein a controversy, quote-unquote, such as this would transpire, because indeed we will be amending the rules, Mr. President. May we recognize now, Mr. President, Senator Bongo.
Senator Go is recognized. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Rules of Procedure governing inquiries in aid of legislation provides that inquiries may be initiated by the Senate or any of its member, or any of its committees if the matter is within its competence. We want to conduct a motu proprio hearing immediately on the PhilHealth issue, since we considered the availability of the resource persons. Tinanong po namin kahapon, we want to follow the 3-day rule notice. We wanted to file a resolution. In fact, we wanted to file a resolution, but we considered that it may not be referred on time for the hearing. I earlier consulted with the Senate President prior to releasing the notice yesterday. The committee simply followed the existing rules that we have right now, but I defer it to the Committee on Rules whether to proceed or not. Thank you, Mr. President.
The remarks of the gentleman is duly noted. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I reiterate my previous motion that we go into a recess. Minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session is suspended.
Mr. President, considering the advisories issued by the executive branch calling for a holiday today because of the inclement weather, and the legislative suspension made by the House of Representatives, Mr. President, I move that we adjourn
But we continue our meeting.
the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, July 24, 2024.
Without prejudice of our meeting.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. But before the chair approves the motion, chair would like to announce a caucus at the lounge among and between the members of the Senate, both majority and minority. There being no objection, session is hereby adjourned until July 24, Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yun na yung recess.